She ran across the yard with tiny arms outstretched, her laughter filling the air. The new German Shepherd watched her carefully, his gaze sharp, his body tense. Everyone expected him to shy away, but what he did instead shocked everyone, leaving the family frozen in disbelief and changing their lives forever. The sun was beginning to set when the family pulled into the driveway with their newest companion, a striking German Shepherd with deep amber eyes. His coat glistened in the fading light, every movement precise and cautious. To the parents, he was a protector, a guardian meant to bring safety. But to the little girl, standing barefoot on the grass with wide-eyed wonder, he was magic. She clapped her hands and squealed with excitement as the dog stepped out, towering yet graceful, his head turning slowly as he took in the unfamiliar sights of his new home. But at first, the shepherd's demeanor was guarded. His ears flicked at every sound, his body tense as though expecting danger. The family gave him space, watching closely, speaking in soft tones, careful not to overwhelm him. But the little girl, fearless in her innocence, edged closer with curious eyes. To her, this wasn't just a dog. It was a friend waiting to be discovered. The shepherd glanced at her, his gaze sharp yet unreadable, and for a heartbeat, the world seemed to pause. No one could have guessed that this very first meeting would soon lead to a moment no one would ever forget. From the very first night, the little girl couldn't take her eyes off the new German Shepherd. She sat cross-legged on the living room rug, hugging her stuffed animals, and watched as he paced cautiously by the door. His every movement fascinated her, the way his ears twitched at small sounds, the way his eyes scanned the room like a soldier on duty. Whenever he paused, she leaned forward with a giggle, eager to reach out. To her, he wasn't distant or intimidating. He was simply waiting for someone to play with. Her parents, however, remained cautious. They reminded her that the dog was new, that he needed time to adjust, that she shouldn't run up to him without warning. But the girl's heart refused to listen. Each morning she rose early, pressing her face against the window just to see if he was awake. She carried her toys closer to his resting spot, whispering softly as though telling him secrets. The shepherd would watch her quietly, his gaze following every gesture. Though he didn't move closer, he didn't pull away either. Something unspoken began to build between them, a fragile thread of trust waiting to be tested. One afternoon, the little girl decided to be brave. She toddled across the living room clutching her favorite toy, a small stuffed bear with worn-out seams, and gently set it down near the shepherd's paws. The dog didn't lunge or retreat. Instead, he lowered his head, sniffed the toy briefly, and then looked back at her with eyes that seemed to study her soul. It wasn't play yet, but it wasn't rejection either. The girl squealed in delight, convinced he had understood her gift. The following day, she offered him a small biscuit from her snack plate, holding it carefully in both hands. Again, the shepherd hesitated, his powerful frame still and controlled, before leaning forward to accept the treat with surprising gentleness. Her parents exchanged uneasy glances, unsure whether to stop her or let the moment unfold. Neighbors who heard the story whispered warnings, reminding them how unpredictable large dogs could be, especially around children. Yet Sarah's little girl refused to feel fear. To her, the shepherd wasn't a threat. He was simply waiting for the right reason to trust. The breakthrough came on a golden afternoon when the backyard was filled with sunlight. The little girl, dressed in her favorite flowered dress, skipped barefoot across the grass. Her laughter rang out like music, and the German shepherd lifted his head, watching her every move. She paused only for a moment, then spread her tiny arms wide and ran toward him without hesitation. Her parents, watching from the porch, froze in fear, their hearts pounding at the thought of what might happen next. Time seemed to slow as the child closed the distance. The shepherd remained still, his body tense yet unreadable, his eyes locked on her small frame rushing closer. Would he back away? Would he growl? Her parents almost called out to stop her, but something in the dog's gaze held them silent. The little girl stumbled the last few steps, arms still outstretched, face lit with pure joy. The world held its breath, waiting for the shepherd's choice, a moment that would reveal the truth of his heart. Just as the girl's hands reached forward, the German shepherd moved, not with aggression, but with a gentleness that left everyone stunned. He lowered his massive frame until he was almost lying flat on the grass, his head bowed, his eyes soft. The little girl fell into his fur, wrapping her arms around his neck without fear. Instead of pulling away, the shepherd leaned closer, releasing a deep sigh as though he had been waiting for this very moment. Her parents gasped, unable to believe what they were seeing unfold before their eyes. Then came the moment that silenced everyone. The shepherd lifted one heavy paw and, with delicate care, placed it into the little girl's tiny hands. It was not an accident. It was an offering, a gesture of trust so human it sent chills through the family watching. The girl giggled, holding on to him as though he were her best friend, while the dog's eyes softened with unmistakable loyalty. The parents exchanged a look, their fear melting into awe. In that single, breathtaking moment, the shepherd had chosen. He wasn't just tolerating her presence. He was claiming her as his own. Later that week, the family received a visit from a local rescue volunteer who had helped transport the shepherd months earlier. Sitting at their kitchen table, the woman's eyes softened as she watched the dog lying peacefully beside the little girl. She began to share what she knew. This shepherd wasn't just any stray. He had once belonged to a soldier stationed overseas. The soldier's young daughter had adored him, spending countless hours curled against his side, much like Sarah's little girl now. But tragedy had struck, tearing that family apart, leaving the shepherd without his closest companion. The family listened in stunned silence as the volunteer continued. After the soldier's passing, the shepherd had been passed between shelters, never staying long, never attaching to anyone. He had earned a reputation for being aloof, almost unreachable, until now. Watching him place his paw gently into the little girl's hands, the volunteer's voice trembled. "It's like he remembers," she whispered. "He lost a child once, and maybe he sees her in your daughter." The parents exchanged a glance, their hearts heavy with realization. This wasn't just loyalty. This was destiny, an unbroken thread of love reconnecting him to the innocence he thought he'd lost forever. From that day forward, the shepherd rarely left the little girl's side. He followed her from room to room, his heavy paws echoing softly on the floorboards, his eyes constantly fixed on her as though she were his only mission. At night, when shadows filled the house, he curled beside her bed, his steady breathing lulling her to sleep. To the parents, it was astonishing. This once distant dog had transformed into her silent guardian. The bond only grew stronger with each passing day. At the park, he stood protectively between her and strangers. At home, he rushed to her side whenever she cried. What had begun as a shocking moment of trust had become something far deeper, a connection written in loyalty and love. Watching their daughter wrapped in the shepherd's embrace, the family realized this was no ordinary friendship. It was healing, destiny, and protection woven into one unbreakable bond. The family knew they had been given more than a pet. They had been given a gift. The shepherd filled the home with a new sense of safety and love. His presence a reminder that sometimes destiny arrives quietly, on four paws. Carrying the weight of memories and second chances, the little girl now had more than a best friend. She had a guardian for life. And the shepherd, once broken by loss, had found his purpose again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unforgettable stories of love and loyalty.